Hello everyone, for Telesura, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. Good afternoon from Caracas. To begin, over 200,000 Hondurans have been deprived of their savings after the closing of the Continental Bank last week. Now, authorities assure the repayment is guaranteed to those with less than $10,000. Now, the Continental Group is accused of money laundering and having links with the Sinaloa drug cartel and with the fugitive El Chapo, who escaped from a Mexican prison last July. Now, the National Commission of Banks and Insurance asked for calm, but out of the 220,000 clients, only half of them, those with accounts lower than $10,000, will be getting their money. The over 11,000 workers have appealed for legal protection. For more now on that story and for more information, we turn to our correspondent Gerardo Torres in Central America. Gerardo, just to start, what's going to happen with all of that money? Those people's money, they had it in the bank and now it's poof, it's gone.
Well, hello, Cody. After the capture of Honduras businessman Yankel Rosenthal last Thursday, the Treasury Department of the United States has confiscated much of the funds of the Rosenthal family. We have to say that the Rosenthal family is probably the richest family in Honduras. Today in the afternoon, the people that had their accounts in the Continental Bank can get out their money with a maximum of $10,000. The other companies, 12 companies in total of the Continental Group, have been confiscated and will be controlled by the Honduran state. This could be raised to an amount of money of around $800 million in total, the value of the companies. It's not known the amount of what the Treasury Department will have after the trial of the Yankel and other members of the Rosenthal family will end. But what is known is that until that trial is ended, the Honduran state will control these companies and put some of them to sale to pay some of the benefits of the workers that have been said already are around 11,000 for all.
And we heard, Gerardo, we were talking about how these the owners of that bank allegedly have links to drug trafficking and money laundering. What else can you tell us about that?
Well, the accusations of money laundering of many banks in Honduras have been occurring for the last years. The Attorney General office has confiscated some of the properties. There wasn't a action as big as this one against the Continental Group. This could be the beginning of the following of many banks. There is known that other banks are under the investigation of the Treasury Department, and what the banks have said is that the Continental case is something that is isolated, that it doesn't have to do with the rest of the banks, but there are accusations against other institutions, so probably other banks could also be intervened in the next stage.
All right, Gerardo Torres reporting there from Central America. Gerardo, thank you.
Thank you.
And we continue with our Central American coverage and with Gerardo's reporting there in Honduras. Several judges there have accused the vice president of the Judiciary Committee of extortion. They claim the top judge forces them to make specific resolutions in cases involving members of the political opposition or that could affect members of the government.
Honduran justice system created in September of 2013 the Judiciary Committee that supposedly was going to create a better administration for judges that would receive more support for their work. But currently there are accusations of extortion against judges leveled at this structure, and its current vice president, Judge Teodoro Bonilla, will face trial for extortion.
The Judiciary Committee is literally the government of the judges. It is in charge of all the administrative procedures and not jurisdictional in the judge's work, but only administration actions, not those related to justice, those resolutions that have to do with what happens in courts.
Several judges have accused Teodoro Bonilla of offering them gifts in exchange of favors or threatening them if they don't obey. Earlier this year, Judge Jose Echenique, in an interview, talked of the pressure he was under to send opposition journalist David Romero to prison. Romero has a defamation accusation pending, but hardly enough to send him to jail.
I know that you will have the trial against journalist David Romero Elner. This trial will begin on June 11th. I want you to give me a hand and let's see what will happen. You'll see the man wants that the journalist goes to prison. The Republic President Juan Orlando Hernandez, he wants to see him in prison.
Even though Echenique said that Judge Bonilla and the president were responsible for the extortion, the Attorney General office has only called Bonilla to present himself. The vice president has pressured other judges so that until today no judge has accepted this trial and it is still pending.
If the lawyer Teodoro Bonilla had a minimum of ethics, he would have already resigned his position and would have presented himself as any innocent person would.
Every day, the political control of Honduras' justice system is more evident, which puts the trust in the justice in the country in a very precarious situation. Much will have to be done by authorities to regain the citizenship's trust. Gerardo Torres, Telesur, Central America.
In Chile now, President Michelle Bachelet announced the beginning of a process to write a new constitution. Now, the current one dates back to Augusto Pinochet's dictatorship. It has been slightly amended since the return to democracy, but the president says that a new and better constitution born in a true democracy and representing the popular will is needed. This was one of Bachelet's key electoral pledges. The proposal must now be discussed through March of next year. Bachelet would not be in office by the time the new constitution is voted upon.
Chile necesita una nueva y mejor constitución.
Chile needs a new and better constitution, born in democracy and expressing the popular will, one that is legitimate and respected by all, and which must become a driving force for national unity. That is what the citizens have consistently been demanding, and one of the main commitments I was elected for. Today, we start to make that commitment come true, and we'll do it the way a project of such magnitude requires, with statesmanship and Republican character.
Bachelet has introduced a joint 5-year-long program between Chile and Japan to train 2,000 professionals from Latin America to respond to natural disasters. Now, the two are the most seismic countries in the world, Chile and Japan, and they will share their lessons learned in past disasters like earthquakes and tsunamis. Chile will provide its experience in building seismic-resistant constructions. Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff says she will stand up to the opposition's attempts to remove her from office. Now, this after the Speaker of the lower house, Eduardo Cunha, delayed taking a decision about opening impeachment proceedings against Rousseff. Should the proceedings be approved, the impeachment would go to a commission including representatives from all parties before being submitted to a vote in the lower house. This voting could require 2/3 of the votes. Then Rousseff would have to step aside while the Senate starts an impeachment trial. Vice President Michel Temer from Cunha's PMDB would take over. Rousseff spoke Tuesday evening at a trade union federation congress alongside former leader Lula da Silva. She accused the opposition of trying to get to power through a soft coup and added, "It's not just her they are against, but her principles."
The obsession of those who have tasted defeat in the polls to destroy the mandate of an elected president against which there is no charge of any kind of crime. I tell you, we will not let this obsession prosper more.
Dilma has only 3 years and 3 months in charge. She still has time to do all that she's been promised during her campaign.
We go to Venezuela now. The National Electoral Council has started to audit the software to be used in December's legislative elections. This software allows the citizens to vote automatically. The system opens the computer only after verifying the voter's fingerprints. Then the voter presses his or her option and the computer prints the selected vote. All the parties as well as national observers were present at the audit. This Sunday, there will be an electoral rehearsal for the over 19 million voters registered. The rehearsal will monitor the functioning of those electoral processes.
Remember, this has two objectives. One is internal for the Electoral Council. There we'll be able to monitor the voting times, we'll time all the polling booths, and we'll perform internal tests about the presence of the members, the voting machine operators, how the transmission works, the functioning of the automated integration system, and the functioning of each and all of the related aspects.
And in Guatemala now, the two candidates for the second round of presidential elections there will debate this Wednesday evening about their electoral programs. They will discuss subjects such as security, food, unemployment, and the prices of the basic food basket there. The debate will last 2 hours. And we go to Colombia. That's where a number of different analysts and political leaders have been raising concerns regarding the future of the military once a final peace agreement there is reached between the government and the FARC rebels. Our correspondent Natalia Margarita now reports from Bogotá.
In the wake of the significant developments that Colombia's peace process has shown, many are now wondering about the future of the military forces. Shortly after it was announced that the United States and NATO will be helping to review the country's military doctrine, President Santos said he's seeking to contribute to peacekeeping missions.
There is an urgent need for alternatives to the military forces, but that cannot be used as an excuse to turn them into mercenary troops in the service of third parties, carrying out dubious missions in countries which we are not at war. That will be unfortunate, especially considering that in terms of human rights, our military don't have the best record.
The future of the nearly 500,000 Colombia's active military personnel continues to emerge as a controversial issue. During his recent United Nations speech, President Santos announced that Colombia will contribute 5,000 troops to security missions within the next 3 years.
It is not advisable for the armed forces of the country to be involved in conflicts elsewhere, because they were part of the conflict in Colombia and they have to be part of the solution in Colombia.
Particularly now that an agreement on justice has been reached in Havana, many consider the military should play a central role in Colombia, especially by contributing to the truth-seeking and victims' compensation.
Those who have committed crimes cannot pretend to wipe their criminal record by fleeing to other countries, seeking jobs as soldiers and contributing to destroy other societies. The military forces have already been involved in all sorts of crimes here. And now, what we have to do is exhaustively start clarifying those truths.
Peace advocates believe one of the main challenges the current peace process will pose is the reshaping of the military forces, which should be focused in internal peace construction rather than engagement in foreign conflicts. Natalia Margarita, Telesur, Bogotá.
More on the Ayotzinapa case in Mexico. The country's Human Rights Commission has now informed of a 6th disappeared bus that was not investigated by the government. The Inter-American Commission for Human Rights had previously revealed the existence of a 5th bus that was not even mentioned in the government's investigation, despite it having been detained by federal police the night of the event. Now, that 5th bus was supposedly carrying drugs. Now the Human Rights Commission speaks of a 6th bus, although it has not given further details. Its president says they are developing this new line of investigation and that they have advanced much. And starting next year in St. Lucia, the country there will begin the sale of citizenship to wealth investors. Now, the announcement was made by the country's prime minister in Monaco last week. Our correspondent in St. Lucia now, Allison Kentish, explains exactly what that means.
In the Caribbean region, countries like St. Kitts and Nevis and Dominica are tapping into new investments and revenue streams through economic citizenship. Economic citizenship, or citizenship by investment, refers to situations where countries offer citizenship in exchange for substantial investment in sectors like tourism. St. Lucia has announced it will begin its program on January 1st, 2016. In her address to the country's parliament in support of the program, Commerce Minister Emma Hippolyte said it is the type of initiative that investors are clamoring for.
That the world as it relates to foreign direct investment has changed and continues to change. And as a country if we do not embrace some of these changes, St. Lucia will be left behind. As a government, we have the responsibility to take steps for two things, among others: to provide an investment environment which would attract genuine investors to our shores, and to ensure that we protect the image and reputation of our country in the world.
How do citizens feel about citizenship by investment? For some, the idea of finding new ways of attracting investment is appealing, but they warn that the proper checks and balances must be put in place.
There are a lot of situations that have happened where it is questionable investment coming into the country once you're showing your money. So as long as they do a significant enough background check and they don't allow these individuals to supersede the current investors in the country trying to make things forward, I have no problems for foreign investment. But
Edward Joseph says the move is a good one as traditional means of financing dwindle.
Yeah, I support in that one because we already don't have nothing. If some millionaires coming down and create jobs in that small little island, very good for us. I support in that one, very much.
Government officials say it was not easy agreeing to the program, but the reality of the economic situation demands action. St. Lucia will become the 5th Caribbean country with a citizenship by investment program. The Prime Minister says the fact that both opposition and the government supported legislation to establish the program is evidence that for small island states facing huge debt, a citizenship by investment program is a viable option for obtaining foreign direct investment. Alison Kentish, Telesur, St. Lucia.
In the United States, the Democratic candidates to be the next president of the country face off in their first debate. Was there a winner? We'll take a look. We'll also have a wrap-up coming up.
Wherever the news, you'll be there.
Rod stars G1 and Claudia de la Cruz are Rebel Diaz, hip-hop activists positioned within a history of political resistance through music. And You Don't Stop. They invite young people to express themselves about their social struggles. And You Don't Stop. Watch it on telesurtv.net/English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there. Caracas, Havana, Mexico, Quito, Washington, wherever the newsmakers will be there. Watch it on telesurtv.net/English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there.
The 5 candidates took to the stage on Tuesday night in Las Vegas for the first Democratic presidential debate in the United States. But who stole the show to eventually emerge as the winner of the night? Well, that depends on who you talk to. It was a tight race between frontrunner Hillary Clinton and the self-defined Democratic socialist Bernie Sanders. But in 2 surveys, over 75% of responders said Sanders won, while less than 18% said Clinton won. Sanders actually came to the defense of Clinton against those who say she put important national information at risk by using a personal email as Secretary of State.
Bernie Sanders of Vermont. Middle class of this country is collapsing. We have 27 million people living in poverty. We have massive wealth and income inequality. Our trade policies have cost us millions of decent jobs. The American people want to know whether we're going to have a democracy or an oligarchy as a result of Citizens United. Enough of the emails. Let's talk about the real issues facing America.
And when the former Secretary of State Clinton was asked what was the biggest threat to the United States, she talked about nuclear weapons.
I think it has to be continuing threat from the spread of nuclear weapons, nuclear material that can fall into the wrong hands. I know the terrorists are constantly seeking it, and that's why we have to stay vigilant, but also united around the world to prevent that.
Russia's military operations in Syria have been a combined effort of intelligence sharing between Moscow, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. Now it seems Iran will play an even bigger role in that operation. A delegation of Iranian lawmakers are in Damascus to discuss a joint operation against insurgents in northwest Syria with President Bashar al-Assad. According to the Iranians, the U.S.-led efforts to fight rebels there have failed. Iranian troops will be bolstering a Syrian army offensive that will target rebels in Aleppo. The U.S. government announced they expect to reach an agreement with Russia's military soon on air safety protocols in the skies above Syria. The next round of talks between Washington and Moscow takes place this Wednesday. The negotiations come as Russia has succeeded in diminishing the Islamic State group in Syria. The Syrian government has hailed Russia's airstrikes as their troops, backed by Russian aerial bombing, regain control of cities and areas controlled by the extremists. Israel has set up roadblocks in Palestinian neighborhoods in East Jerusalem as part of their efforts to curb the recent wave of violence that has gripped parts of that country. Now, since October 3rd, Israeli forces have killed at least 30 Palestinians and injured thousands more. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet authorized the roadblocks overnight and also gave police the authority to impose a curfew on parts of Jerusalem. Palestinian officials and residents alike have condemned the measure as collective punishment. More than 50 million citizens in the United States live in poverty. Now, according to figures from 2014, of those, 48.1 million people live in food insecure households. For more on the state of poverty in the world's richest country, here's Bianca Perez.
David Moore has been struggling with his living situation for many years. After bouncing around from one friend's house to another, he resorted to a shelter that would guarantee a roof over his head.
I really, truly thank God for this place. Because if I did not have this place, I really just don't know where I would be.
Places such as the Central Union Mission, which accepts 180 people daily and provides them with food and shelter, are trying to combat hunger and poverty in the United States, which can be seen in the low wages.
I was making $8.25 an hour. I did 24 hours a week. My boss, for whatever reason, would not give me any more hours. So that's what I had to cope with. And that was at my lowest, my lowest point.
Federal minimum wage in the U.S. is $7.25 an hour, and currently more than 48 million people live below the poverty line, which for a family of four was $24,000 per year, or about $60 a day. For many, having multiple jobs does not guarantee food security for their families.
I know that there are families, there's a lot of the families who go to our Food Plus Center, that the wife has 2 jobs and the husband has 1 job, and they still don't make ends meet because the rent is so high.
According to a Gallup study, a family of 4 would need to earn at least $58,000 per year to get by in their communities, more than double the current federal poverty level for a family of 4, which is $24,000. Bianca Perez, Telesur, Washington, D.C.
Public anger is building in South Africa over the country's weakening economy. Several thousand demonstrators marched through Johannesburg to protest against government corruption. The march was organized by the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa and were joined by other unions. Among the list of demands are that extra funds be allocated to the Office of the Public Protector. According to Burundi police, 6 people were killed in clashes in the capital there. The clashes are the latest violence since President Pierre Nkurunziza won power for a 3rd time. The president's opposers say that his 3rd bid breached the law and terms of a 2006 peace deal. Now, in September, the UN warned that Burundi risked sliding back into civil war due to the unstable situation marked by human rights violations, including extrajudicial executions of Nkurunziza's opposers. Filipino star boxer Manny Pacquiao says he's running for Senate to give back to the community. Pacquiao, who is already a congressman in the Philippines, has launched a campaign for a spot on the 24-seat Senate in Manila. General elections are scheduled for late spring in 2016. The boxer said that he still has one more fight left in him before he fully switches careers into politics.
Okay.
Polish archaeologists who were exploring the site of a planned motorway unexpectedly found a Bronze Age cemetery. The archaeologists were expecting to find remains from the Battle of Kazbach, which took place in 1813, but they instead discovered something much older. The graves date back 3,000 years. The team was able to deduce a lot about the status of the people buried there from the nature of their graves. Archaeological explorations are set to continue until late autumn. As we're covering on this midday here from Caracas, plenty more on all of those stories and plenty others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. Today we close with a preview of Cultura Latina's next episode about the gastronomic festival in Argentina. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great day.
This week in Cultura Latina, we're going to the Gastronomic Festival Race in Buenos Aires, which is a celebration of the Argentine cuisine. It's often defined as a mix of flavors and scents that brings together different products and habits from every corner of Argentina. The festival has been going on for 3 years and has counted on the participation of some of the best food and drink vendors in the country. Here you can take a tour through different restaurants and meet more than 200 independent producers. Everything and more of Latin culture this week in Cultura Latina.